Matt Standards, we've got a pretty decent storm headed in from eastern Oklahoma, approaching the state line. Big severe thunderstorm warning, including most of LaFleur County. We've been watching this bow echo just surge towards the east. You got to watch these for sure. Not only do they produce damaging winds, but sometimes on the north side you get a rotation. We've had kind of a meso form at times for northern Latimer County and southern Haskell counties, kind of tugging the county line, and that'll be coming towards the Poteau area. Something to just watch. But right now, it's just mainly a nasty windstorm coming in from Oklahoma. We also have a couple of thunderstorms towards our north right now, north of Tulsa, Miami, Pryor. We're watching these storms press off towards the east. There's a couple of these cells that are forming on the south side, too, that may start to come into northwest Arkansas here shortly. But let's get to the main storm, the main appetizer, main course coming into Poteau right now. Big surge of wind right where you've got this backward C shape right in the middle of it, the apex of this bow. A huge surge of wind. We've got wind speeds that are getting close to 60 miles per hour or so. However, this storm is weakening over time. We've had 70-plus mile-per-hour winds over Lake Eufaula, but as this storm moves eastbound, it has been weakening a little bit. The red color shows you a tornado watch that's been slowly expanded, basically county by county throughout the evening. And now, of course, we have that county now. For LaFleur County, we're included in that tornado watch as well, just mainly because on the north side of this storm, we can continue to watch the threat for some rotation. We're getting our live streams ready to go. So bear with us for just a moment as we get everything sorted out. It's going to get real loud, though, anywhere from Poteau to Howe, to Heavener, Shady Point, Panama. We're all in the thick of it with this storm coming in. Kavanaugh Hill, if you live anywhere around Kavanaugh Hill, or if you can see Kavanaugh Hill from your house, it's about to get pretty loud. So we want to give people an update. I know it's late at night, but we've had a lot of storms over central Oklahoma. These storms produce several touch-and-go tornadoes on the south side of Oklahoma City. Now we're getting the remnants of them. They're not rotating as much, although there is a little bit of rotation on the north side that we're going to get to here in just a moment. I want to show you what we're talking about. All right. I think that's good. So let's jump into the radar just a little bit. Back up for just a quick second. Warm front coming in. This warm front's going to surge a bunch of warmth and humidity coming in for this weekend. By Mother's Day, Sunday, it's going to be our warmest and our most humid day, and there could be a couple downpours trying to form with that too. But it's all thanks to this warm front. Now, as the warm front pushes through, it's sparking the severe weather. So we'll take a closer look. Good surge of wind coming into LaFleur County, headed right towards Kavanaugh Hill, coming into Lake Wister right now. In fact, it's just arrived at Lake Wister, especially on the western shores. Talahina, we just got blasted through with some wind, but we've noticed this storm slowly is weakening. We had earlier 70-plus mile-per-hour winds. Now we're closer to about 60. The threshold for a severe storm is at 58, so we're just barely above the severe criteria. Overall, this is starting to weaken a bit over time. Towards the north, we've had a few decent storms, kind of riding up 44. There towards Miami, and we're watching some downpours kind of on the south tail end of this line, and we could be watching a few more downpours try to come into northwest Arkansas. We've got one close to Salem Springs. We've got a couple there towards southwest City, extreme northwestern Benton County, a little bit of rain. But let's take a closer look at this storm. This is our main storm. The red color shows you a tornado watch. Over the course of the night, we've been watching the tornado watch slowly be expanded county by county instead of just issuing one large one, mainly because this is the one storm that we've got to deal with. The problem with this storm is that it's gusting out right at its center, and so when it gusts out so far at its center, kind of this backward C shape right in the middle, you mechanically start to turn the wind. So you push forward really quickly. It's kind of like taking your hand in the bathtub. You push the water, and then that vorted C forms there right above your hand. Same story in this case. North side, you got to watch out for some of this rotation. However, it's not as prominent as it was earlier, but if you notice the winds, you do kind of see a little bit of spiraling rotation in the atmosphere. So we have a very broad mesocyclone kind of spinning in the air, but at this time it's just not tight enough to have any kind of tornado warning. It looks like the National Weather Service is starting to trim the severe thunderstorm warning because the wind threat is on the very eastern edge. There's a lot of rain to go back off towards the west. So here's back to the radar. Lots of rain westbound, but it's this leading edge that actually has the wind threat that's pushing off towards the east. Let's try to get a quick update, see if anything from the National Weather Service is coming in. So going ahead and trimming there on the western half of, well, not western half, but a little western corner there. Once you get out of Wister and you head towards Talahina, we're watching the severe thunderstorm warning has been trimmed and expired. So it's kind of like this arrow shape that we've got. Heavener, Howe, Poteau, Worcester, we're coming in next. So the wind is now surging on the western slopes of Kavanaugh Hill, just now reaching it. It looks like the wind's going to be stronger, though, farther south, right over Howe and Heavener. We're next. Worcester, we're getting that wind and rain just coming right over the lake right now. It's going to come in towards the campgrounds there on the eastern side. You got the kind of the causeway there jutting out towards the west. So that wind's coming in. Heavener, Howe, Poteau, Monroe, we're going to be getting some of that wind too. Northern portions of Lafleur County, yes, we have a severe thunderstorm warning for Shady Point and Panama, but the winds are not nearly as strong as they are towards the south. So from Poteau south to Heavener, and even kind of south towards right over Poteau Mountain, where you got the Heavener Runestone State Park, we're going to be getting hit with this gust of wind here very shortly. On top of that, we've had a little bit of hail. We've had some hail right over the kind of the county line in between parts of Latimer County and into Lafleur County. You can see the terrain here. So we're deep in the terrain. So you go from Red Oak and you go back up the hills, you're headed farther south. And some of these pastures, we've had some of that hail. We've had some hail over Tallahena, but it looks like with the latest scans that we don't have as much hail coming in now to western Lafleur County. I'll go back for a quick second. You can see where Lake Worcester is. We could get a little bit of small hail coming over the lake, but the bigger threat is that wind. So we've got that wind about here, and then the hail's back off towards the west. So how this thing shapes up, you see the lightning off in the distance, starts to get louder with the thunder. Winds pick up first, you shoot this wave of wind, then you get the dosing of rain and some hail mix in. But the wind is that primary thing that starts to blow through right at the beginning of the storm. Here's a wider view, once again, with Max Doppler 5. We are quiet in the Eastern River Valley right now. Just a light south wind from Clarksville to Boonville, Paris, Ozark. Fort Smith, we're dry at the moment. I think the heart of this storm is going to stay towards our south. So if we time this storm out, which is moving, let me get the latest track on this storm. All right, so the storm goes till 2:30 for that severe thunderstorm warning. Let's see, the speed right now. Click it one more time. 35 miles per hour, so it's moving a little bit faster. That's also a sign of it starting to weaken out. It's starting to gust out, and it uses some of that wind that is gusting out and kind of propels the storm itself. Let's see, so updating at 35 miles per hour. Let's push this storm along. So you see the time, Poteau here just about now, a couple minutes coming into town, still on the other side of Kavanaugh Hill coming in from Lake Worcester. It's going to hit the ridges of Kavanaugh first, and then it will come into downtown. Pecola, 2:30. Waldron, right there around 3 o'clock. 3:18 for Boonville, 3:41 in Paris. I tell you what, this was also a really loud storm. This is one that wakes you up and think, oh boy, what do you got coming at us? So let's take a look at how many lightning strikes we have in this storm. So we can try to count best as we can. Yeah, a decent amount. So the powerful strikes are the positive strikes. You got more of the positive strikes than the negative strikes, but you put them all together, you've got a lot of lightning coming into Lafleur County. Just within, let's see, past, looks like 20 minutes, you've got over 500 lightning strikes. So very noisy. It's going to get super loud across Lafleur County. If you're tuning in from Poteau, if you're tuning in from Heavener, Howe, Worcester, we've got this backward C shape. That's a bow echo. Strong windstorm coming into Lafleur County. Tornado watch still in effect for Latimer, Haskell, and Lafleur counties. That's it for our viewing area, and then extends off towards the west, towards McAllister and Lake Eufaula. But the reason why is because on the northern side of this storm, there will be the potential for some rotation. I want to show you what it looks like outside right now. In Fort Smith, from one of our newer cameras, the United States Marshals Museum, you're looking back west, southwest, you look over the river, you see the lightning off in the distance. Now in Fort Smith, I think we're going to be mostly okay. You could get some rain, you're probably going to get some lightning. But the main wind threat is going to be farther south of us, really towards Greenwood, and then Midland and Hartfield. So farther south towards Sugarloaf and Poteau Mountain, we'll be getting more of that wind threat. This boat, once again, live look in Fort Smith. We're also going to take you live in northwest Arkansas. We don't have a severe threat right now, but we do have a couple pop-up downpours near the state line. So coming in from Westville and Stillwell, and headed towards Siloam Springs, we could get a couple quick splash and dashes. We'll see how they grow over time, but right now we're dry in Bentonville, but be on the lookout. There could be a couple scattered downpours. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get one, but it's just something to watch. Back to Max Doppler 5, our one active severe thunderstorm warning pushing across Lafleur County. We had an update from the National Weather Service a little bit earlier this evening. What they're also noticing is that the surface winds are starting to decrease just a little bit. So that's some good news. I want to show you what it looks like with some of those winds right now. This is just taking a look at velocity. Got a good push of wind coming right over Lake Worcester. Pretty much most of the lake has now been cleared, especially on the western side. Gust of wind coming into Kavanaugh. Here's Kavanaugh Hill. You got good old Poteau. Pirate country about to get blasted on through. Wind through your sails here shortly. Howe, Heavener, wind coming towards us. This terrain right here, Poteau Mountain, you got the Heavener Runestone State Park. I tell you what, there's some beautiful views up there, probably just looking at the lightning, looking back west. But that main wind threat's now coming into Heavener right now and Howe. Here's a closer look. There's Worcester. You got Glendale and Howe up and down 59 to Heavener, Howe, Hodgen getting some of that wind. Yerby getting some of that wind, and back west, Victor, we just had it right around Worcester though. If you live in Worcester, Howe, Poteau, you're in the threat of this wind storm coming in. Farther towards the north, you have to always watch these bow echoes because on the north side they get this mechanical rotation. And if you look just generally, you do see some rotation. The atmosphere is spinning right over McCurtain, Keota headed towards Bekoshi and Callington. But it's very broad. A lot of lightning with it. You see that pocket of lightning where that rotation is. You see, we're kind of right here. You also have lightning just throughout LaFleur County, but there seems to be a kind of a congregation. They're all grouped together like buddies right now coming to McCurtain. General rotation, very broad, but it's not tight enough to produce a tornado right now. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But right now we're just watching that surge of wind. It looks like it's starting to have a little bit more of a northeasterly tilt rather than just due east. So that's going to bring it right into Poteau, right there towards the campgrounds. You've got some of the car dealerships on the south side. It's going to come in towards the hospital. Bobo's, we're going to be getting some right into downtown Poteau. North side, where you've got the Walmart, you got the Chili's. I don't think the wind's going to be as strong for us. It's really south side Poteau, right, the big interchange there where the bypass meets 271. And then south to right along 59. You go past the lumber yard, Ron's Lumber. You go into Howe, Forest Hill, and Hodgen and Heavener. We've got that wind just blasting on through. You got back west towards Worcester, still very breezy for us, but the big gust of wind is just towards our east now, coming right up and down Highway 59. So we'll see if this is extended by the National Weather Service. We're getting close to the edge of the severe thunderstorm warning. Got to grab an iPad here in a second, be able to take a closer look at some of the individual wind speeds. Here off camera. That's why sometimes you see us holding some of these iPads. So let's estimate some of the winds that we have. All right, so I'm going to kind of correlate. So we're zooming back out over LaFleur, Poteau, Howe, Heavener, Hodgen. If you take a look, let's start in Heavener. Looks like we've got, well, about 57 mile per hour wind. So we're right there at the severe threshold, right there at the peak of the bow. Looks like we got 59 mile per hour winds there, right over Howe. So just north of Heavener, right where the black arrow we're pointing at. Close to Poteau, as you get farther north, let's go to the south side first. Estimating wind speeds, 52. And then north side Poteau, we don't quite have the wind threat in yet, but we've got some 40 mile per hour winds. So we go from 40 mile per hour winds over Poteau, coming in right now. You get south to Howe, right there along 59. We're up to about 58, 59, approaching about 60, coming through Heavener. So it's this bright, forget the other arrow. We've got this bright green is where we have the leading edge of some of those wind gusts right now. And that wind threat itself is moving about 35 miles per hour to the northeast. So Poteau, we're right in the thick of it coming in, especially south side. 230 for Hartford, 243 Mansfield, 258 in Waldron, 303 in Washburn. Going to get the wind, but then you're also going to get a lot of lightning. It's pretty loud out there across LaFleur County. and then back west to Lake Eufaula, Wilburton. We've got some of that heavy rain too. Looks like I got a flash flood warning south of McAllister. Some of these storms are just training over the same locations. You go to Pushmataha County, man, it's just pouring for us, like cats and dogs out there. Got a good splash of water coming right into Poteau. Looks like the rain has now covered about half of Kavanaugh Hill. It's coming up the slope. It's coming right where those cell phone towers are, right at the top, and then coming in. It's going to drop down the hill, hit some of those houses on the hill, and then come right towards the Walmart, Chili's, and then you head south towards the high school. You've got Pansy Kid Middle School. We've got the rain coming in for us, and then south side right over Ron's Lumber. We've got some of the gusty winds coming into town right there at the lumber yard. And then south to Howe and Heavener, we've got that wind too. Here's Poteau Mountain, looking back west from the Rune State Park, looking back west across LaFleur County. Wide view again, watching northwest Arkansas. A lot of these cells continue to struggle. They pop and then they start to flare again. We've got one little cell that's right over Highway 412, kind of in that very rural spot in between Salem Springs before you get to Taneytown. A little bit harder to get cell phone coverage there. You know what I'm talking about, that strip. We've got that cell coming in right now. Little baby downpour, quick splash and dash. But the heaviest rain is definitely towards our south right now, coming over Poteau, Heavener, and Howe. But we do not have rotation, at least a tight enough rotation to have any kind of tornado warning out of this storm. Very disorganized on the north side. You've got some rotation, but it's so broad. And it's probably going to be having a hard time to try to wrap up. Our winds are not the greatest here once you cross in the state of Arkansas. I want to show you some of our winds right now. Here showing you just now, you're going to see Poteau's kind of an outlier just because we've got a storm coming in right at the moment. But when you're looking at your winds across 5 country, look how they're weaker. The blue color shows you where we've got wind speeds picking up. Once you get into Oklahoma, it's a lot gustier right now. And you need those winds to help sustain these thunderstorms. We've had them a lot stronger in Oklahoma. The question has always been, when do they get here and how strong are they getting here? Well, everything continues to weaken over time. As we get to Arkansas, we just don't have as much of a wind. It's in the right direction to produce severe weather. You want that southeast wind to help wrap everything up if you want some bad weather. But it's just not very strong. So you can have everything in the right direction, but it's only moving a handful of miles per hour. You're not really going to do much. So that's one reason these storms are starting to weaken as they come in. Warmth-wise, we're okay. We've got 70s. That's plenty good. Now we're starting to notice the temperatures throughout the atmosphere are starting to cool off in different places. You're starting to get a little bit of a cap forming in places too. So storms will continue to get suppressed. But one of the big things is that wind field. It's not quite conducive for these storms. You're going to continue to see it weaken. Live look in Bentonville. Lots of clouds out there. Watch out for a stray downpour possibly this evening. This is a live look in Fort Smith. As you're looking over the river, you're going to start to see this storm get a little bit closer, and it's going to get kind of gnarly there for a minute. But I think in Fort Smith, generally, we're not too worried about a massive severe threat. You're going to see the wind, you're going to feel the wind, you're going to hear the wind pick up. Got some good lightning strikes as you're looking over the river. There's the Garrison Avenue Bridge. Let's kind of put that in perspective. So you got downtown Fort Smith. Museum will be opening up soon. You're looking towards Oklahoma, you're looking towards Moffett. That's where where these lights are, towards Moffett. But you're going to watch this storm as it gets closer. Lightning's going to get more frequent, it's going to get brighter, it's going to light up the sky. But we're going to watch that. So severe thunderstorm warning once again for Poteau. Its expiration time is 2:30. See if there's any update from the National Weather Service. All right, so, oh, that's interesting. All right, so National Weather Service is looking at the cell in Worcester. There's a mesonet site there. They're going to try to get a report to see how fast the wind is. We can estimate it with our radar, but that's not right at the ground. That's for Fort Smith, or sorry, for Worcester and Poteau, we're talking about maybe 1,500, 2,000 feet above our heads. So it's going to be windier up there than it's going to be on the ground. Let's see. Looks like the report just came in. We've got a 33-mile-per-hour wind gust, so that's a lot slower than what we're even estimating on the radar. All right, so that's actually Kiamichi. I think we've got to wait for the, let me see if I can tap into that data. Oklahoma Mesonet. Let's see if we can get a reading from Worcester. Because if we're not getting these wind speeds at the ground, even compared to what the radar is saying, there's no reason to issue a severe thunderstorm warning again. All right, wind gusts. updated. The new update should come, I think, in about 2 or 3 minutes. So we get an update on what we just had, that wind. The apex of the boat is coming right to Worcester, so it's a great sampling site. Oklahoma Mesonet, they have several of these reporting sites across the Sooner State, so it's coming right into Worcester. So we'll be able to see here shortly if it's still eligible to have a severe thunderstorm warning on it. If we're only going to get 30-mile-per-hour winds even at the ground, that's not enough to be a severe thunderstorm warning. Yeah, this sucker is loud, and man, it's rolling out there. But if it's not producing quite all the winds at the ground, it's a little bit tougher. A lot of times, well, actually, a lot of times this does happen at night, but specifically with this storm, the storm has become elevated, which means it starts to really pack its punch higher up in the atmosphere. It kind of decouples itself from the atmosphere, or from the surface itself. So what that means is you get a lot of nasty weather up top, especially with the winds, but at the ground level, you get some wind, but you just get a lot of rain. And so it's hard for us to estimate with the radar exactly what's going on the ground, so we try to give our best guess. We're estimating wind speeds still high up above Worcester, about 1,500 feet. We're still getting these winds, which is about the height of Kavanaugh Hill, so that puts some perspective. About the top of Kavanaugh Hill, we're getting these 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, but then you get back down to the ground, you get off the hill, south to Worcester, south to Lake Worcester, and we're still only getting 33-mile-per-hour winds. We'll see if the update's in yet. Let's see. Temperatures are now dropping because of that rain coming in. We've got it went from about 5 miles per hour to a quick 33 miles per hour. But that may be it. All right, so update from the National Weather Service. Okay, 34 miles per hour, so maybe one more than 33. This storm will probably likely be expired, or just let to expire here within the next 12 minutes. So once again, this storm is our gnarliest storm, and it's not producing the wind at the ground as originally expected, just because it's mainly up there. Top of Kavanaugh Hill, we've got the gusty winds, but most of us don't live on the top of Kavanaugh Hill, so it doesn't really quite matter at that point. But we're watching about 30-mile-per-hour winds when you're sampling it with some observation data that's coming in from Oklahoma Mesonet. So likely the National Weather Service will issue what's called a special weather statement, which means we got a nasty storm, but it's not quite to severe limits. Watch out for it. It could get loud. But I think we've really got a good windstorm. 30-mile-per-hour wind still can blow some stuff around, but it's mainly a good rainstorm and a good lightning storm. Very, very loud. I want to show you what it looks like over Fort Smith from the Marshall Museum. See the lightning off in the distance right now. It's going to try to wake us up in around Fort Smith here very shortly. Wide view again. I think Fort Smith, we're going to be in the north end where we've got this just kind of general broad rotation, but it's not really wrapped up to do anything at the moment. Lightning is also kind of downtrending on the northern side. It looks like in this whole storm, a lot of lightning starting to decrease. That's a good sign. That shows you the storm is weakening. But we've got a good lightning pocket there just south of Heavener, closer to Hodgen. Going to skim us at the Runestone State Park. So if we can get through with this one storm, we're looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and regroup for a second. Most likely this will be let to expired. If we have any more information that shows that this storm is starting to strengthen once again, which that threat is very low, we'll give you that information coming up here very shortly. Make sure you keep it here, keep it local. As always, we'll keep you advised.